I teach and I do some research and outreach. Right now I'm teaching ornithology and marine biology, but I also do have some other projects that I'm involved with that require continual updating and contributing, including the project to unite the 4 major global bird checklists and come up with one single checklist. It's called Working Group on Avian Checklists, and it's through the International Ornithological Union. And because there are 4 checklists that recognize different species, the idea is to have this group of experts that votes on the best treatment and comes to a consensus. A lot of it has been collaborative with people who are doing genetic analysis, and often I do the vocal analysis and the morphological analysis. When you encounter the bird, you make as many recordings as you can, and then later you process them, put them in the computer, and then put them in a sound analysis program. In the case of song analysis, it could be maximum frequency, minimum frequency, length of the note, number of notes, number of pauses, length of pauses, etc. What's ended up happening is I've actually discovered or helped discover 11 new species of birds that are described now to science, so that I was a co-author on. In every case, it was much more of a protracted process, usually involving birds that are not very obviously distinct until you look at the details, the structure, until you take a lot of measurements, until you get the DNA, until you know what the song is like, etc. And then you know, oh, well, it's different in song, it's different in DNA, it's different in structure, in plumage color, etc. It's a different species, but it's a long process in most cases. And you often don't know the answer right away. But there was one time when I was going back to one museum unexpectedly to look at a specimen that I believed to be a new species based on its song being different. It was an owl. And I asked to see that specimen, which I knew was in a separate collection. It wasn't in the main collection. The collection manager came back carrying one owl in each hand, said, "Which one do you want to see?" And I looked at them, I said, both, because one of them was the one that I had come to see, and the other one was something I right away recognized was not something I'd ever seen before. And it turned out within an hour, I knew I was looking at a new species, very distinctive new species of owl from Sulawesi that had just been misidentified and not recognized as a new species. When you finally come to the conclusion that it's well supported as a separate species and that you've got the description ready, and each of them is it's very satisfying to know that you've been able to contribute that. It's important to know what is a species because we need to know the levels of biodiversity in different areas for scientific reasons as well as for conservation reasons, management reasons, etc. So conservationists need to know what occurs where and how many species there are in order to be able to prioritize conservation efforts. And a good example of this is in the Philippines, where we had a single species called the Philippine hawk owl. And based on the structure, you could see that there was a lot of variation among the different island populations that seemed to be, make it unlikely it was all one species. But it took a long time to finally get recordings together from all of the different key areas. And when we did, we realized we had 7 different species. So what we ended up showing was that instead of one species that's not endangered, there are 7 in the Philippines, of which several are very highly endangered because they have tiny ranges, tiny populations, need to be conserved. Delia Coup grants have been very, very useful in being able to plan short trips that allow for reconnaissance and being able to visit some of the local museum collections as well as the local the habitat of some sort of mystery species, and be able to get recordings, etc., and sightings, and be able to, without having the time or the resources for a large, full-scale project, to be able to at least resolve some of the mysteries.